you're mentally capable and you're a go-getter and you're willing to put yourself out there, take some risk, entrepreneurship is the only way, you know? I mean, welcome to another episode of The Michael Maloney Show, where we take you on a journey around the world, exploring the stories of successful individuals and learning from their achievements and struggles. Join us as we delve into the why and how behind their accomplishments and discover how to live a more fulfilling life. I've learned over the 20, 30 podcasts that I've done to always press record, because sometimes we'll start talking and it'll just be too good to miss. So,
what made you decide to start doing this podcast?
Really to shed light on like what our lives are like, you know, as entrepreneurs. There's as you know, running the hardscape company, you know, there's a lot to it, and there's a lot of people that want to do it and don't do it because of just the fear of the unknown, you know, not believing in themselves. Even though they're so unhappy at their job, they just don't want to go out and take the risk. And so I kind of, what the goal of the Michael Maloney Show is to share what people like you and I do, why we do it, what the situation was that got us to start a business, you know, and just shed some light on it. Because I believe personally, if you're mentally capable and you're a go-getter and you're willing to put yourself out there, take some risk, entrepreneurship is the only way, you know? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely, bro. I couldn't see my life any other way, working for somebody else, making money for them. I need the freedom that it provides me. And, you know, it just gives me the ability to do things I would never be able to do if I worked for someone else. And like the way my life is shaped out, like it's just amazing. But like you said, it's the mental tenacity to be able to push forward through all the hard times. Like you got to be a tough dude to be able to maintain through the ups and the downs. It's a roller coaster.
It is. It's tough, but God, the way I've looked at it, is it offers an opportunity to like, it's kind of like, if you heard of those people that, or some people do it, where they'll go to, like a Navy SEAL training on the beach, and they'll just spend like 3 days just getting the shit beaten out of them. And, you know, just to like develop mindset, you know, and it's kind of like, that's basically what a business is in a way. It's like you're signing up, you're putting everything on the line, like you're going for it. Like you either fail or whatever, but it's like a course. It teaches you all the hardships. And I remember when I was like probably 2 years into starting my business, my landscaping company, I've had it for probably, I started in like 2015, so it's been about 7 years. But I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, owning a business is nothing like what I thought it was. It really wasn't, because I got into it. I got into landscaping because I had known how to do it. I grew up in the industry. I'd done a few different things that allowed me to be dangerous enough to be able to do it. But then once I started once I had a full schedule, and I learned that I wanted to actually grow the business. Like being in the business and being on the business are two different things. I'm sure you've realized that. Like being like in it all the time, like running all this, and everybody's at a different spot. So and we'll find out. I'm not exactly sure right where you're at. And to anybody listening to this recording today, Justin and I, we barely know each other. I've met Justin on Facebook, through some other people that we both know. We followed each other for a while. I see your posts all the time, so I feel like I know you, but ultimately we really don't know each other that much.
Get to know each other pretty well through this one.
Yeah, right. But just, I guess what I'm getting at is it just wasn't exactly what I thought it was going to be. It's good, but it's a lot more of management and like future looking, and like just optimizing efficiencies, and just figuring out the best way to do what we do so that we can make money, so that we can roll it into future endeavors. And it's really exciting. But do you agree? Like, is it what you thought it was going to be, or is it a little bit different?
It's a lot harder than I thought it would be. to
Sure.
to run a company successfully. I know plenty of business owners that do good work. They really struggle with the business aspect of it, and the company suffers. And they just kind of skate by. They do enough to be able to pay the bills, buy the boat, drink beer on the weekends. But I wanted a lot more than that. So I wanted
Right.
to build a legacy, something for my kids,
Mm.
something that I could look back on and be proud of. I want it all.
God, I
So
love it. Well, this is really good. So I tell you what, I just have a few questions just to kind of like get going. We've already talked about some good stuff here. We'll usually keep this podcast to about 25, 35 minutes, somewhere in there. So don't worry too much about time. But um, without telling me exactly what you do, even though I already kind of gave it away to anybody listening, tell me who you are as a person. Like, what do you believe in? Like, why do you do what you do?
I'm a man of faith. I love Jesus. Uh, Things from my past have shaped me. I guess we need to go back a little bit to talk about who I really am. Growing up,
Yeah,
I struggled with acceptance, self acceptance. I didn't really like myself. I don't
sure.
know why, but I didn't like myself. And I found that drugs seemed to be the answer for that. So when I was in high school, I started getting high. Everything was great. I didn't have a care in the world. If people didn't like
Just
me,
pot, just like just all the time, just dabbling with it.
yeah, just some weed, and then started drinking. And I got in an accident when I was 16. This DOT state dump truck swerved in our lane and hit us head on. We were actually headed to go get some weed, and he swerved
Oh
and
wow.
yeah, and hit us head on, and it messed us up pretty bad. Luckily, he wasn't going very fast. I think he was almost at a stop, but we were going about 45. I hit the brakes, but it was raining really hard, so we just slid right into him, dude. And it was like hitting a brick wall.
Sure.
So that's when I got introduced to pain pills, and turned out I loved pain pills,
Ah,
and
yeah.
that seemed to be my solution for the time. And eventually that progressed until I got into heroin, and I was strung out on heroin for, I would say 6 years.
No
Just,
way.
yeah,
Wow.
every day, every day craving it. And so the thing about addiction is that it's pure hopelessness. I guess the best way to explain addiction would be to say it's like drowning. And when you're drowning, there's only one thing you want, and that's a breath of air. And that's what it's like to crave drugs when you're addicted to them.
Mm.
And you don't care about anything else in the world but that next high. So you'll do whatever
I've
it
never
takes.
been explained it that way, but that makes sense, man. God, 6 years.
Yeah. And you'll destroy every relationship that you have. I mean, I've stolen from every family member. I remember the worst thing was I stole every bit of gold out of my grandma's dresser, and I stole these two rings that granddad had gave her. And this was it wasn't long after that she passed away. And when she found out the gold was gone, she just wanted the two rings back. She wanted to be buried with them, and
Oh,
I couldn't give it back to her, you know. And
wow.
and her husband, my granddad, when he was in the hospital, he just went in for a routine surgery, but I was supposed to go see him before he went into surgery, but I chose to go get high instead, and he ended up dying. And he was my
Oh,
best friend. We would go hunting all the time, and I spent a lot of time with him, and he was my best friend. But I got countless stories like that where I chose drug over something that was more important. It should have been more important. It wasn't at the time. And eventually it progressed until I was homeless. And I got memories of cuddling up with a stranger in a shed in the winter to keep from freezing. Uh, just
dude, first of all, let me interrupt you quick and just say congratulations on getting yourself out of that and finding. I mean, you're a successful business owner. I mean, you've got a family, right?
yeah. Well, I got a wife.
Yeah.
We're gonna try to have some
Yeah.
kids.
Dude, and the crazy thing is, and holy shit, man, I mean, that's a heavy past. And I mean, you've gotten through it. And the crazy thing about it is, and I'm a firm believer in this, and it's what you go through gives you the perspective to enjoy life. And like, I have a 2 year old. My wife and I have a 2 year old. and I was telling the babysitter, it's probably been like 4 or 5 months ago, when I was picking him up, she was telling me how he fell on his face that day and had a bad accident. I'm like, I told Kim, I said, Kim, my goal is to put this little kid, Cal, through as much hardship from now until he's 14 as I can, 18, so that he can turn into the person that he needs to be, so that he hardship brings you the perspective. I sometimes use the analogy. It's like glasses. It's like every time you go through something in life, or every time you get an experience, it adds a shade to your glasses, and it's the perspective. It's those glasses that allow you to see the world for what it really is. And I'm sure someone like you, Justin, who has had the past where, and I can relate. I've never digged as deep with heroin and stuff, but I've smoked a lot of marijuana. I've done cocaine. I've been around stuff, so I know what you're talking about, but not to the extent that you're saying. But it allows us to appreciate what we have now. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have your life put together now, and if for some reason you had um what's the word, a craving for something, you might think to yourself, well, think about how good my life is now and how much different it is from where it used to be. And like, if you look at some of the most successful people in the world, most of the time they come from some hardship in their life. And it's that hardship that, when you can get through it, then all of a sudden smaller stuff is just like, oh, whatever, I can get through it. Like, I had to quit smoking pot, and I smoked for like literally 8 or 9 years straight, and not, once again, I'm not comparing myself, but that was really hard for me to do, right? Once I did it, like, for the longest time, I was just convinced. I convinced myself, like, hey, I'm just a daily smoker. That's just who I am. Like, I tried quitting maybe 5 to 8 times, and made it like a month, and then I'd go back to it, and then so after a while, I like built this muscle inside of me that believed that that was who I was. Well, then once I got through it, all of a sudden, I'm like, okay, well, if I can quit smoking, I can do other things. Like, I'm sure, can you speak to that? Like, can you relate?
If you can quit heroin, you can do anything. So.
See, exactly, right.
You
And
know,
that's why it's like we have to train ourselves to like look at it as a blessing. Like, it's such a weird thing, and so many people just don't have the desire to adapt to that perspective. But it's the people that achieve the most and create the most freedom and abundance in their lives have been through that stuff, and it's just kind of like developing work ethic. Like, some just like you, Justin, I'm a rather young guy. I'm 28, turned 29 in 5 days, actually. Um, but a lot of people are like, Mike, how did you do what you did? And like, starting a business and growing this bit, and doing all this stuff. And how do I, they'll say, how do I do that? And oftentimes it'll be a young lad, or it'll be a parent of a young kid. And I'll say, go get work experience at a young age. Like, because once you have to develop the work ethic muscle. And like, do you remember a time like when you had to go to work and you just didn't want to go?
oh yeah, plenty of
You know,
times. Yeah,
right? And
actually,
so you go.
still don't want to go to work sometimes.
Yeah, right. So,
So,
exactly, and that's the thing. Like, and that's why it's important to remember this, because sometimes it's like Monday morning. It's like, even for me, who's motivational and tries to stay positive all the time, and who I like to think that I have a good mindset all the freaking time. It's like a Monday. It's like, well, I don't want to do this, or I'm not excited to do this. Well, you have to remind yourself that, like, there's the good and like the ups and the downs, and like it's all necessary to move the pencil forward. So, um, I think that's really important to recognize.
I look back on my life and pinch myself because it was such a hard road. Quitting drugs was actually the easy part. Looking back at it, when I went to treatment, I spent 90 days in a treatment center. Then I moved to a halfway house. I lived in a halfway house for a year, rode the bus over 2 hours to work, 2 hours home every day.
Wow.
Got fired from multiple jobs working construction. And I mean, I just sucked at what I was doing at the time because my brain didn't work correctly. It had been fogged for so
Mm,
many years with drugs, and I got discouraged, but I always knew like there was more out of life, and I knew I could do it. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I didn't know how long it would take. I just was waiting for my opportunity, and um, I was working a dead end job and I got a phone call for somebody that wanted me to run their landscape company, but all I knew how to do was cut grass. So I
How
taught
do you
myself.
know them, or how they just
He,
called you out of nowhere?
so I was actually sponsoring another addict that was in early recovery. And
Oh, like being their like mentor, kind of.
yeah, basically you walk them through the steps, you teach them how to stay clean and how to live a better life.
Cool.
So he had recommended me to him, and he called me, and I was kind of scared to take the job because I didn't know anything about running a company, and that's what he wanted. He wanted somebody to be able to run the company and cut grass. I was like, well, shit, it can't be that hard. You can do this. You'll figure it out. And we got into it, and before too long, he really let me take the reins on it. He owned a plumbing company, so even though he told me he was going to be involved in the landscape company, he wasn't. And before too long, I started seeing these projects of hardscapes, and I was like, man, I want to build this stuff. And he got me some jobs, and like,
So at
man,
this time, where did the guy that you were sponsored come in? Was he the one that owned
he,
the person you sponsored? He owned the companies.
no, he worked for the plumbing company. He worked for the guy that owned the plumbing company.
Gotcha,
And
gotcha.
the guy that owned the plumbing company wanted to buy a landscape company and run it. I guess he thought that all he had to do was buy a company, hire somebody, and they would build it for him.
I see. And
Yeah,
how'd that end up going then?
not good. I burned that thing to the ground. I, I, uh, I, bro, I didn't know how to run a company. I didn't know how to build the stuff. Everything I've learned is literally from YouTube. I watched YouTube videos
Amen.
and I built things the wrong way. And countless times of me wanting to give up, knowing that I wasn't going to. I wasn't going to let that demon creep in to get me to quit, but I wanted to because it was so hard, and I just couldn't figure out how to do it successfully. And 2 years into it, he had enough. I guess I had burned through enough of his money without being able to make it successful. So I didn't know what to do, man. I went and took a job getting paid $14 an hour, and I had countless bosses over me, and I hated every second of it. And then somebody called me thinking I still was running that company, and they wanted me to do a little project, and I bid it high, and I got the project. So I went and did it on the weekend, and ended up rolling over into next week. But I made $1,000 a day, and I said, "That's it. I'm starting my company."
There you
So
go.
I started March of 2020 was when I started working for myself.
Really?
Yeah,
Gosh, that's awesome. So, what do you mainly do? Is it? I know. Is it? It's a lot. How do you say your last name? Last name is it Lofter?
Lauder.
Lauder. So Lauder Hardscapes, right?
Yeah, Lauder Family Hardscapes. Yeah.
So just give me a. So do you mainly do? And for anybody listening, hardscapes are like patios, retaining walls, outdoor living areas. But like, is it mainly outdoor patios and stuff, or like, do you do maintenance services?
So we don't take care of any maintenance. My passion would be in stonework, masonry. I love it's
Awesome.
probably some of the hardest work, but I love the outcome of it. It allows me to really be an artist, and so we don't get a lot of
Sure.
pages. Of course, we've branched out, man. Over the years, I've done quite a bit of different stuff. Brick retaining walls, stone retaining walls. I've tried to do a little bit of everything. I learned though that it was important to specialize in a few things to get really good at it. The problem was with doing a bunch of different things is me and my guys could never really get good and get in a rhythm to make it profitable. So these projects where you had a bunch of different um, items in it, the fire pit retaining wall, landscape lighting, plant design, I had to narrow down what we could get the best at and try to land more of those projects to change my profit margins because of course, man, it's hard to learn how to run the company, get really good at building the stuff to where your name, you don't want to burn your name, right? You got to learn how to build it correctly,
Right.
make it look awesome, and build a good reputation. And then you've got to be able to find the guys and train the guys that can do that with you in the hopes that one day you can step away from it and they can do it without you having to stand over them all the time. And it's been a struggle. It's just me and two guys right now. We stay
Heck
small.
yeah.
I'm on the project usually. You know, I, I won't say 24/7. I get a chance to step off sometimes, but and I don't mind it for the most part. The projects where I have to be there every day, it gets really hard to land more projects, go out to do the
Sure.
estimates, the designs. Like that's a struggle, man. And but the one thing that I won't do, I will say this: meeting Joshua Gillow was the greatest blessing my company and myself have had, because that man has
Dude, Josh
taught
is
me.
the man.
Yeah,
He's the
bro.
freaking man. You
Yes.
know, you knew we knew each other, right?
Yeah.
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 So, God, we met. Did you ever hear how him and I met?
No.
Probably not. So, God, it's crazy because I I was in a really bad spot. So it was about 2.5 years ago. And for anybody listening, Joshua Gillow, he is both of our Facebook friends. He's our real friends too. I know I've seen on Facebook and Instagram too. Justin's attended some of Joshua's events, some like hiking events, mountain climbing events. Looks so badass. I want to do it sometime.
It's
Uh,
hardcore.
it looks really cool, man. And just knowing Josh, I'm sure it's just a hell of an experience. So that's really neat. And how they're doing all the videography with Zach now and everything. It's really cool. But anyways, I met Josh. So just to give you a little bit of background, it was about 2.5 years ago, and um, my business was we were doing pretty damn well. Like we had a lot going. Like this was about 5 years into the business, 5 or 6. At that time, we were north of $1 million. You know, we had some great companies that we were constantly working with where there was business coming in. I mean, we were in a good spot, but I was the most miserable person. Like I would easily get pissed off at my employees. Um, just stuff that shouldn't aggravate me was getting to me. And it was like I could never get to happiness. I would go home, I'd be pissed off. I might, have a couple drinks and relax a little bit, but then the next morning I would feel hungover and then I would just be in a shitty mood. And it was just this cycle, like this repetitive bullshit. And I remember thinking a few times, like, what the hell? Like, I grew up in an entrepreneurial family. I always wanted to own a business. I have all these things going. Why do I hate this? And then, so do you know Dwayne, I always draw again or whatever. I
I
have a hard
forgot
time
it.
pronouncing his last name.
Draw
Yeah.
down.
So, anyways, Joshua commented on one of Dwayne's posts. For anybody listening, these are two people that Justin and I both know on Facebook. Justin and I and Joshua and Dwayne and tons of people in the landscape industry, and I'm sure other industries too, are all online sharing what they do, teaching, networking. It's a beautiful thing, right? Well, Joshua commented on one of Dwayne's posts that said 2 millimeter ATF, which stands for 2 millimeter growth and like all aspects of your life. And then Tony Robbins talks a lot about how like I don't know how easy it is to see in this video, but like right now I'm like in like the Superman statue, like 2 millimeters forward is like just a little bit of an adjustment, but it completely changes your physiology and like your chemical makeup. Have you heard of that stuff?
Yeah.
So really, really powerful stuff. Well, I didn't know what that meant. And I've always been that person that's like, hey, what little like sayings and little knacks can I learn or like tricks or tools, like I have sticky notes all over my desk. Like this one, it says the opportunity is in the show up, or like fuck self doubt, like do what others won't do so that someday you can do what others can't do. Like just little phrases. So I was really curious, like, hey, what's that 2 millimeter ATF stand for? And Josh is like, dude, call me tomorrow, and I'll tell you about it. So I called him and he explained that, and then he's like, man, and this was during COVID. He's like, dude, in like 2 weeks. Which, by the way, for anybody listening, Joshua lives in Pennsylvania. Dwayne lives in Chicago. I live in Iowa. Where do you live, Justin?
North Carolina.
North Carolina. Sorry, that's off topic, but I was curious. Anyways, he was like, in 2 weeks, I'm having a bunch of people out to an Airbnb, and we're doing a virtual Tony Robbins UPW event. Like I said, it was COVID, so Tony Robbins wasn't doing any live events. Everything was virtual. And for anybody listening, Joshua, who we're talking about, he owns a company called Yes Express, where he helps business owners, landscape business owners specifically, learn how to optimize their leads and like who their business markets to, so that businesses can really cut out a lot of the waste and going and working with people who they don't want to work with. And so he obviously works with landscapers across the country. Well, he was inviting a bunch of his customers, who I was able to meet and become friends with and still are friends with, to his place in Pennsylvania. Well, it was a 3-day event. He's like, dude, if you want to come out, no cost to you, come on out. And I was in a bad spot. Like I've told a couple people this story. I felt guided, like godly guided. I'm like, I gotta go to this. So it was a 13-hour drive. I hopped in my truck and drove all the way there. And dude, it was the freaking epiphany of my life. Like, before we continue, I'd like to take a moment to share something I'm passionate about with you. If you're someone who is constantly striving for personal growth and loves surrounding yourself with other motivated individuals, you're going to want to hear about this. Check out growthgroupinc.com. This is an exclusive community made up of high achievers and dynamic entrepreneurs just like you. It's a space where like-minded individuals come together, collaborate, and support each other on their own journey to success. Growth Group is more than just a community, it's a collective mindset, a commitment to getting better every single day. We believe in the power of connection, collaboration, and constant growth, and we're confident that being part of this community will give you an unparalleled advantage on your path to success. So take a moment, visit growthgroupincorporated.com, and join us as we elevate our lives together. Trust me, this is one investment in your future you will not regret. Now, let's get back to our conversation. Going through those workshops with Tony, like Tony Robbins, it's people that know me hear me talk about him so much that they're probably like, who is this freaking guy and why does he think he's so freaking awesome, right? But if anybody doesn't know who Tony Robbins is, go on on Netflix and watch the documentary I Am Not Your Guru. Kind of explains kind of what he does and how he goes about it. But anyways, just had some amazing epiphanies that weekend of about like why I was doing what I was doing, like the reasoning behind it, like underlying reasons. And I learned that like I started the business to get money, to make money, which is okay. That's fine. You got to be opportunistic. But once I became successful, pretty successful, I was too focused on what was next, too focused on the forward. Like, where is my business going? What is my next customer? Who is my next employee? Like, what's the next kind of equipment I want to buy? I was so freaking focused on that I didn't take any time to appreciate this fucking beast that I just built. Like within 5 years from nothing, like my grandma literally co-signed on a loan, which enabled me to start the business. And then within 5 years, it was, a multi-million-dollar company. And I was drinking, I was smoking weed all the time. I was just fucking the most unhappy person in the world, which is complete bullshit. Like, come on, Mike, there's people that have way less that are way happier, and you hear people, like Robin Williams killing himself. He could make anybody laugh. One of the happiest people in the entire world. And so that's how I met Joshua. He invited me to that, and it literally, so over the last 2.5 years now since that happened, I'm shaking right now. I'm so excited. I've just been on my trajectory has just freaking excelled because I've learned that's the other thing at that UPW. I learned the word fulfillment. Like we need to be doing what we do with our lives to fulfill ourselves. And in a way that brings joy to us organically, and so I learned at that seminar that I need to scale my business and I need to create a way to impact, contribute to other people. And that why, that really strong burning force inside of me has allowed me to become even more successful. And that's why I'm so grateful that I met Josh. That's why I'm so freaking pumped about Tony Robbins and those seminars. And that's why, like you asked me earlier, why I do this podcast. It's truly like, it's like fulfillment. I want to contribute to other people. And so it's a freaking awesome thing, dude. And, yeah, Joshua, I can't remember what got us on to Josh. But just a wonderful guy. And that's if there's any lesson that anybody could take from the last 8 minutes of me explaining what that all meant is, when you're thinking about why you do what you do, which you should definitely think about, that's worth figuring out. Consider doing something that will benefit other people. Whether, or maybe it's that you become so successful that you have time freedom that allows you to spend time helping other people, or maybe it's creating a business that you make so much money that you can afford to donate food to the food pantry, or buying Christmas gifts for people. So that's just, I guess, a little bit of a segue. I'm sorry if I got off topic, but that's how I met Josh. That's what's motivated me to get to where I'm at, and it sounds like you agree that Josh was a badass. And how did you ever meet Josh?
So I watched a video. Cruz was talking about sales
Sure.
process, and he was talking about Joshua. And at the time, that was what I struggled with the most. How do I close jobs? I could get leads, but how do I close these jobs? I wasn't very confident. And it shows to clients when you're not confident, or if you're extremely
Sure.
confident, that shows too and puts the client at ease. And that's how they feel about me now. If I go up to a project and we go to do a quote or I make a phone call, I am the best choice you have to build an awesome outdoor living space. I don't care who it
I
is
love that.
you call, I'm the best. And, that might not be true. I'm sure there's somebody out there better than me, but, I really believe that well, that's not true. I don't think there's anybody out there better than me because I put my heart and soul into it. When I build a project,
Amen. No,
it's
own that, dude. That's fucking beautiful. Like, I love that.
it's
I,
as if
seriously, dude. Like,
when
you
I
are.
build when I build them, it's as if it's my own project. You know what I mean? Like I put a lot of love into it. So, but but I when I called him, he told me about the sales process, and it was the first time I ever believed a salesman. I truly believed it because he spoke about every struggle I had and he had answers for those struggles. And I didn't have much money. I had, I had maybe like $15,000 in the bank. I paid how much it cost for his program. I bought a laptop, basically spent almost all the money in my bank account to go through that. And
Wow.
it was the best investment I had ever made. Um,
God, that's cool.
yeah. And
So you invested all this money. And this is what I was talking about earlier. Like, if you want to be successful, you have to be able to take risk. Like, you
uh,
took risk, dude. And like, that's what's freaking cool is you came from, not to say you came from nothing, but you came from very little. And look at what you're building. I mean, dude, that's freaking awesome. Let me ask you this. What is something you've learned starting and building your business that you believe everybody should know?
focus on the moments. I could see my company in 5 years, it won't be a multi-million dollar company. And I could just as easily sit here and start to compare myself to you, which comparison is a thief of joy. So I got to shut that down real.
Amen.
I can't compare myself to other people, but also, like, man, I will not work 6 days a week every week. I will spend my weekend with my wife and my family. And Joshua has taught me this, and it's to enjoy the moments because I could
Mm.
chase that dollar, right? I mean, reading the book about the richest man in Babylon, and just understanding the people that had all the money in the world but still killed themselves because money would never give them, it would never fill that void that they had inside. Really, truly, what is going to fill that void is Jesus Christ. That is what will fill
Mm.
that void to give you peace, to understand that the things of this world mean nothing. You can't take it with you. And money, I do like money. I like the things that it allows me to do. I'm able to travel. I went to Italy for my honeymoon. That was but a dream. I never thought I'd travel outside the country,
Yeah.
let alone spend 2 weeks in Italy. But I have to remind myself quite often that, focus on the moments no matter what. It's a stressful situation. I've had plenty of extremely painful situations and losses, financial losses in my business that have caused me to feel like giving up, right? But at the end of the day, I still had my wife, I have my family, I got my great looks, and by,
Hell
by,
yeah.
uh, I'm a very blessed man because of the things I have in my life money can't buy. The things that money can't buy, money could be gone tomorrow, man. I don't know how long I'll have on this earth. I could live a full life or I could pass soon. And
Yep.
understanding that how precious life is and how it can be gone in a moment, to really realize that will help you focus on the moments and not the future so much. Like not to worry about it. I'll work as hard as I can. I'll do my best. I'll put my faith in God. And now that doesn't mean I don't experience fear. I do experience my fair share of fear. But at the
And
end
I
of the
think
day,
that's normal. I think everybody does. It's just controlling that survival brain.
well,
It's
yeah, it's like the video you talked about with fear. You were experiencing it. And I love people that share their pain. I listen to motivational speakers and stuff, but I need to be able to relate with you. So if you talk about how badass
mm,
you are and how you overcome everything and you never experience those struggles that you want to quit up, first of all, I know that's false. I know that you're
yeah,
human.
right.
You're going to have those struggles, but I love the people that talk about the struggles as well because I want to be able to relate with you. And if you never struggle,
Amen.
then we have nothing in common. I'm
Well, and
too.
that's where like coming from a place of like hardship, like people can relate to that. Like you said, like if you just have some primo lifestyle, like everything was handed to you, like everybody's gonna be like, "Who is this fairy tale?" Like we're not gonna listen to them. Like, dude, you would have a great career. Like you could really excel at public speaking because you've had that background. Like just keep grinding and keep building because everything that you like everything that you've done, and same thing with me and a lot of people, and this goes for everybody really. It doesn't matter what your past is, but everything you've built is proof that somebody can be, and don't take me the wrong way, dude, just here, but now they're freaking here. It's like that, like it's so attainable, and all it takes is a positive mindset. It's and realizing, like Tony Robbins always says, that when things are happening, they're happening for us, not to us. Like what can we learn from these situations?
Pain is probably the greatest blessing of all because that's what will mold you.
Mm,
Unless you give up. You could give up.
yeah,
You
you
don't, and you
could.
push through. The night is always darkest just before dawn. Like, don't give up because it's
I
right around.
think there's some gold there, and not just to keep name dropping Tony, but another thing he says is something along the lines of the amount of, I think it's like the amount of freedom or the amount of success or the amount of prosperity a person realizes is directly proportional to the amount of uncertainty they are okay with going through. So, like a lot of which uncertainty to me is similar to quitting, or it's the opposite of quitting, because like a lot of people quit because they give up on themselves, or they give up on believing that they have a chance, which is kind of correlates with uncertainty, because you know what I mean. It's just like, oh, I don't know if I can do that. Well, if like for instance, you talked about a couple times where you've had hardships and it's caused you to think about quitting. Well, there was something that kept you from quitting, and it's that freaking just that badass mentality and that confidence and the certainty in yourself that you can do it. And so many people, unfortunately, don't look at life that way, and so they get into a hard situation, they quit, and then they whatever. Life might get easier, or it doesn't get harder, or might get harder, but they just get used to like quitting. Like I don't want to name drop them, but I'm thinking of some people in my life that I know that they just they're quitters. They just are great at quitting. And
Well, it's easy.
that's why socialism is bullshit, man. There's some people deserve more than others. What are you
Yes.
gonna say? Sorry, man.
Damn right. Damn right. No, yeah, quitting's the easy part. I mean,
For sure. Yeah. So I don't know. It's just fucking awesome. And dude, I'm so glad I had you on today, Justin, because like I said, and like I've said earlier, like I've been following you. Like, it's social media is great because you can kind of surround yourself with like-minded people. Like you're always sharing positive stuff and putting great stuff out into the world. So that's freaking awesome. And just after learning your story, it's I guess I never took the time to really look into who you were, just because you know how it is. There's always so much going on. I didn't know all this about you, and that's just. I mean, dude, you're a fucking badass. Like the fact that you went from a 6 year, and I realized that drug addiction was even longer than 6 years, but 6 years addicted to heroin, got out of it, have have since then got married, have started a business. The route that you took to get in a business, the way that somebody asked you to do it, you failed forward, you learned how to do it, and then now you're doing it. You have two employees. Man, I tell you what, it's freaking exciting to see you where you're at, and because I can see you and me and you Um, I'm really excited for you. So, what are some of the goals that you have for the next 3 to 5 years for your business?
Well, I definitely want to grow. I want to be able to. So I bought equipment early on, so I'll have that paid off in 2025. Um, so the size of my company and of course the employees that I can hire that will give me more freedom and allow me to step away from it and not be so controlling and that will only time will tell. That will be, I'm sure, one more struggle, but that's the ultimate
Oh,
goal,
it's
right?
part of business.
Yeah.
And I
So
tell you what, there will. That's the thing. As you grow, like some people think the responsibilities or like the bullshit stuff gets easier. It's there. It's just usually if you do it right, at least what I've found is you have more with a bigger business, you have more momentum and more financial capital, which just allows you just it's not as big of a problem, but you still have them, right?
well, you get really good at
But
managing. I'm
yeah.
great with chaos. Especially, yeah, that's one thing that my past did. Like, bro, I'm so comfortable in chaos most of the time. It's like, oh shit, let me get my blanket. Come on, get snuggled in.
Everybody else is like freaking out. You're
Yeah.
just like, hey
Oh yeah.
guys, just calm down. We got this. Yeah,
Yeah,
I can relate, man.
when COVID hit, I'm like, this ain't shit, y'all. You ever been strung out on heroin? Y'all are fucking freaking out.
Yeah,
You were there will always be
right.
another crisis. Save some energy for the next crisis. There's gonna be another one, I promise you.
Oh man, that's hilarious. It's so true though. Oh
Yeah.
my god, it's fuck. And mindset is kind of like a catch-all phrase, but if it's I consider that mindset, it's like a strong, rigid, positive mindset that that some people easily come out like I guess mindset's kind of an interesting word because there's all kinds of different mindsets. There's positive, there's stress, there's worry, there's ambition, there's all these different things, and some people just easily fall out of those categories, whereas what you're explaining is like when shit hits the fan, you're able to stay in that, which is leadership. Like in order to be a leader, you have to be able to, like, when all the shit's going crazy, be able to say, no, this is what's going on. You got to be able to identify the bare bones of the situation, identify a plan, and move forward. Like with what you're talking about, what you can do, you're a good leader because you can actually do that. But some people just they start freaking out, like focusing on the loss and focusing on what they're going to miss out on. And it's amazing, dude. The trait that you're explaining is what allows you to be that fucking amazing achiever in life. And
Well, and like
that's cool.
when I started my company, like, bro, the one thing I didn't want to have was regret. I needed to know. Like, if I failed, then at least I failed trying. But I needed to know.
Mm,
So every time I take a risk, and I take plenty of them, it's because I need to know. Like, is it a good idea? Is it a risk? I don't know, but if it's a bad idea, I'm gonna find out either way. I'll hit my head against the wall
mm,
plenty of times, but I'm gonna continue to try because I don't want to sit back and think, what if? If I had never started
damn
my
right.
I would spend my whole life working for somebody else, and I would always wish that I had tried to start my company, and thought, what if?
Mm.
So the one thing I don't want to die with is regret, and I don't think I will.
So one of the no, that's beautiful, Justin. There's a retirement home close by here in my town, and they had something on like their board last year. It said, I think it was something along the lines of "uh-oh" is better than "what if" or something like that. Like learning that you shouldn't or that is way better than, like you said, being on your deathbed and wishing, well, what if? Like, you know, isn't that the truth?
It's worth it, bro. Even if it goes down in a flame of glory and this shit all blows up, at least
As
you
long
try.
as you're healthy, that's all that matters, man. I mean, I've said before, like when I'm talking about my goals and like what I want to do, I'm like, I'll say the only thing stopping me is death itself. Literally.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm gonna try like fucking hell to make it happen. And if it doesn't, so be it. If I happen to die, at least I died trying. And
Yeah.
that's might be one of the biggest things that I took away from that Tony Robbins thing was just thinking about what like with the way I was living my life at that time, if I would have died, I would have, or like if I would have had a moment to consider my life before I passed, I would have been the most unhappy person in the world because I wasn't the best boyfriend. I wasn't the best employee. I was basically fake because to the public I was this positive guy, but behind closed doors I was an asshole and stressed, and it I was not real, and so that was it was so unfulfilling. I was just fucking chasing the dollar and doing what I knew I could to make money, but I wasn't doing it for any reason bigger than myself, you know? And God, if there's anything I can tell people in life, if you're struggling at all, if you find yourself being complacent and being ungrateful and taking stuff for granted, it might have to do with you don't have a strong enough core reasoning for why you're doing what you're doing. But God, man. Oh, well, we're kind of wrapping up here. And by the way, Justin, dude, you're such a badass. I gotta have you back on this show. I think what we should do is like maybe like 6 months or 8 months from now, just do a follow up, and we can kind of like talk about like where you're at and like where you're growing, and kind of just do a follow up because you've got some really good mindsets and you've said a lot of really good things that have gotten me to also talk more. Which we both just brought out some amazing points that I think are really going to help the listeners. So you're one of the one of my favorite people I've had on my show so far. So thanks for that.
Yeah.
Um, where can listeners find you online? Just like Facebook or Instagram?
Facebook. I have a business page, but I usually post most of my stuff on my personal page. So Justin Lauder.
Sure.
Our website is lauderfamilyhardscapes.com. But now, if you want to reach out through Facebook, I do like to network. I don't network as much as I should. It's hard, balance is
Sure.
almost impossible. So family, business,
Yeah.
friends, networking, and but I don't overwhelm myself either. So I don't do more than I can, and I put my time where it matters most. That's typically with family and friends, and then networking for business is below all of those things. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
but
important, in life that we constantly work on our personal life and, people it's one analogy I like to hold on to is the whole like oxygen mask thing. It's like if you're on a plane, you don't put the oxygen mask on your kids first because then you might pass out. Like you have to take care of yourself. And I tell my wife all the time, it's like, because we have a 2 year old now, we have a baby that we just had this past Sunday. Crazy, by the way. But it's like we
congratulations.
have to thank you. We have to make sure that Sydney and I, our love is top priority because someday our kids are going to move out and then what is there to have, right? And it's interesting because not only is my and Sydney and my wife and you and your wife's like our relationship's really important. What's even kind of insane and kind of hard to deal with is even more important than that is our own well-being. Seriously, like we can't like if I don't take care of myself, I could have a heart attack and my wife won't have me, And so it's really weird how we have to kind of think about that when we're thinking about how we spend our day. Like I spend about 2.5 to 3 hours every day working on myself, just working out, making sure I get a good breakfast, reading some books, doing pretty much nothing that has a direct. It has a correlation. It definitely affects income, but it's kind of hard to see that it's causing income, right? But that's some those are some important takeaways. So, um, well, Justin, do you have any final thoughts for the listeners before we log off?
What you said. Work on yourself. Everything else falls into place. You will make more money. The business will get bigger. It'll get better. The relationships with your family, your wife, whoever it may be, everything gets better if you focus on becoming the best version of yourself, whatever that might mean for you. And but more importantly, like bro, don't let the moments pass by. Enjoy the
Don't let the
moments.
moments pass by.
Understand how precious the time is, and
So,
you'll
how do
enjoy it.
you, even more specifically, how can you be really good about not letting the moments go by?
Really, like man, when things hit the fan, sometimes I take a day off, or I might take a weekend off. I'll take the guys to go do something fun. Like, bro, if I've had a stressful week or a stressful month, like, hey, it's time to go have fun. I'll take the crew to the shooting range, or we'll go play paintball, or go race go karts. I mean, what is it really going to hurt? I'm not going to make as much money, but I'm definitely enjoying life more and also enriching the lives of my guys. Like, they they have the best boss that
Sure.
you could have. I take such good care of them, and they know that. They believe that because I love them. And I understand there's more to life than work, but
Mm.
and it's like with my family. Luckily, I married a Mexican. They are extremely family oriented. She has taught me so much
Sure. Yeah, they are.
of family. God put her in my life for a reason. She has changed me so much, but we spend a lot of time with
Amen.
the family, and uh there have been times where I was like, "Oh no, I can't do this. We can't go on a vacation. I've got to work. I need to work. The numbers don't look as good as they need to, and but that's just not the case because the money, like I said, the money don't mean shit. The numbers don't matter. It will all come in time, but the moments you spend with your family, that like those are gone. You'll never get that back.
Amen.
And cherishing the moment. So sometimes it's just slowing down and really thinking like a good gratitude list is good. What am I grateful for? Even the smallest things. Bro, when I was homeless, I never could take a hot shower. Like clean underwear, these little things that we tend to take for granted and just to remind myself of what life was once like and what it is now. I mean, heck, dude, we just bought a house. I bought a $500,000 house, which in my market ain't shit because the fucking real estate market is insane around here. I just want to say,
Right. Crazy.
I mean, it's
That's
insane,
awesome, though. Congratulations.
but it's insane to think about, man. But I can still be ungrateful. I can with everything I have, everything I'm blessed with, I could still be ungrateful if I don't focus on the things that truly matter. So
It's literally simple, dude. That's beautiful. That's freaking awesome. I mean, that's so simple and so freaking powerful at the same time. I couldn't agree more. I mean, that's literally what was going on in my life where I was wrong because I wasn't in the moment. I was too forward thinking, and once I learned, like you said, to focus on, like, I literally started writing down every day 10 things that I was grateful for and would do that every day. And it changed my life.
So I guess to answer
So
your question,
I
I would say to answer your question, I would say to stop. Just stop.
just
If it's for
stop.
if it's for a day or whatever the time may be, just stop and go spend time with family. Go take a hike. Go get out in nature. Erase work from your mind. Get rid of that shit,
Mm,
you know, and it'll bring you back to center. And it does a great
God, I
job.
love it.
It does a great job of that for me.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Justin, for being on our show. With that, we have reached the ending of today's episode. I'm Michael Maloney, and this was the Michael Maloney Show. See you on the next episode. That was another episode of the Michael Maloney Show. Thanks for listening. Have a great day.